Hey guys, I'm the 50s kid. This is my E46 BMW. In this video, I'm going to show you how to adjust the parking brakes on it. So let's get started. So to go ahead and get started, we're going to loosen the ends of the parking brake cables on the parking brake lever itself. To do that, it's pretty easy. You just go ahead and lift that up, pull this up and out. So I've just pulled the parking brake up so I can access these cables easily. And I've got just a little 10mm 1/4" ratchet here. Just going to go ahead and loosen those cables, and then we're just going to reset these once we're done. And we just want to go ahead and do that until we've got some slack in the cables. You can just feel some obvious slack when you go down in there and you just put your finger on them. So I can feel that they're just wiggling around. So there's no tension on those cables at this point. Now you're going to need to remove the wheel in order to access the adjuster mechanism. Technically speaking, you don't absolutely have to remove the wheel. You can just remove one lug nut and then get the thing aligned properly and get in with a long screwdriver and reach in and adjust it that way. But it's a little more difficult to do with the wheel on because you don't have as much range of motion with the screwdriver. So at the very least, I do think most of you are going to have to remove the wheel. This is called a drum-in-hat parking brake system. There's actually a little mini brake drum on the inside of the rotor, and there are little parking brake shoes which expand out when you engage them. There are different types of systems. Some of them actually integrate the parking brake into the brake caliper, and it's like a ratcheting style mechanism. But this one is drum-in-hat. So we're just going to adjust it in the same way that you would adjust normal brake shoes on older style drum brakes. And you just kind of reach the screwdriver in there and you turn the adjusting mechanism, and that's going to spread out the shoes or retract the shoes in depending on what adjustment you have it at. And you want to get it to the point where the shoes are just close enough to the brake that they are going to engage when we engage the parking brake, but they are loose enough that they're not actually going to be pressing up against the drum while you're going down the road while the parking brake is not engaged. Now I think it'll be best if I show you what that mechanism looks like. So through the magic of editing, now you can see what the mechanism actually looks like. So now you can see the parking brake shoes, they actually expand outward from the bottom when the parking brake is engaged, and they adjust from the top right here. So by turning this little knurled wheel, that will actually spread the brakes out or it will retract them in. The goal for the adjustment is we want to actually adjust them. We're going to adjust them through the wheel like this, through the little hole in the wheel, and we're going to adjust. We're going to move the knurled wheel towards the back of the car. That's actually going to spread the parking brakes outward. So it's going to spread them outward like that. And we want to get it to the point right now to where the parking brake shoes are actually touching the rotor and you're not going to be able to turn the rotor. Once we get it there, we're going to go in the opposite direction like this. And we're going to draw the wheel, we're going to draw the shoes back in. We're going to do that for 10 clicks. Okay, and then they're going to be in exactly the right position. So let's go ahead, let's throw the rotor back on, and we're going to adjust it until we can't turn the rotor. So I'm going to go ahead and lever the knurled wheel towards the back of the car. Might take a little practice before you kind of get the feel of this right, especially because you can't really see it. So I can barely move it, so I think one more click is going to do it. Okay, so now I have it in a position where I can't actually move the rotor at all. So now I want to go back the other direction, 10 clicks, and then we'll be in the perfect position. Now I'm going to do this with the flashlight so that I can see what I'm doing because you don't always hear the click. 9 and 10. And the click is actually when the little knurls on the wheel actually when they move over the spring, and I'll show you that again on the other side, but that's basically the click. So you're just kind of looking to see when the spring jumps over each one of the little teeth. So now we've got it in the perfect position. So over here on the right side of the car, the difference is that we're going to reverse the direction in which we spin this knurled wheel. So if we want to adjust it out, we have to move it towards the front of the car like that. And if you want to move them in, we then move it towards the outside of the car, the opposite way. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I will adjust the brake shoes out a little bit right here. It's always a little easier to when you can see it. I'll put the brake rotor back on, and then I will adjust it to just to the point where I can't turn it anymore. So I actually loosened it or expanded it just a little too much, and I couldn't get this back on just now, which you may find. Now I can just barely get it back on. So I think I'm probably in the optimal position. Let's get the little screw back on. So we're almost to the point. Now we're gonna go ahead and adjust this down. And again, I need my flashlight for that. That's almost it. Maybe one more click. There. Now I cannot move the thing at all. So now I'll go the opposite direction 10 times. 8, 9, and 10. So now we're 10 loose. We're nice and loose. So now I'm gonna reassemble everything and put the wheels back on. Before I do that, I'm gonna take the rotor back off and clean off the rust on the inside of the hub there. A lot of you guys were pissed off at me that I didn't do that when I changed my brakes a couple weeks ago. So I'll go ahead and do that. Then I'll put everything back together. We'll bolt the wheels back on, and then we'll do the final adjustment inside the car. Little side note, guys, I did replace my brakes recently because of brake noise problems I've been having ever since I owned the car, last 2+ years. And it's particularly on this side, and I think the reason it's happening is I'm noticing now the brake pad ears have actually worn quite a bit of metal away on the insides of the brake caliper bracket. So I'm thinking that might be causing, you know, letting them vibrate a little bit. It could, I'll try some different brake lube. Actually, I don't have any different brake lubricant, so I'd have to go grab something. I'm thinking maybe a thicker brake lube rather than using copper anti-seize. A thicker brake lube might actually prevent some of that brake chatter from happening, but I'd have to go grab some. I don't want to lose the light. So why don't I go ahead, I'll finish this up. I can always get the proper lube and just do this again another time. But yeah, I think that's what's causing this. So now I've got the wheels back on. I'm gonna pull the parking brake up 2 notches, and then I'm gonna tighten the cables and basically get them to the point where the wheels just barely turn with resistance. So right now the parking brake is off and I can rotate the wheel freely. I went up 2 notches and I can rotate it, but there's resistance. And if I go up a 3rd notch, I should not be able to turn it, and I can't. And that's exactly where we want it. So I'm gonna go back down to 2. So let's go back all the way down and then up 1, 2. I'm gonna test the other side and see if it's the same. That was the driver's side, by the way. So here's the passenger side. There's some resistance there. So all the way up to 3, and I can't move it. Let's put it all the way down. All the way down, and the wheel moves freely. We're perfect. Turn the ignition on and pull your brake up 2 notches. Make sure that your brake light comes on. Looks like mine does, so we're all good. So let's just replace this little cover here. And we're all done. Man, that's a pretty easy DIY. I think I'm gonna leave the car up on jack stands. I'll ride my bike up to the auto parts store real quick and see if I can get some different kind of brake grease for my calipers, and I'll just kind of redo them and put the proper grease on them. Hopefully that'll solve my noise issues. If not, I'm probably gonna need to get another brake caliper from the junkyard because, you know, these things, the BMW brakes don't have brake hardware that we can replace. So it looks like the brake pads are grinding into the caliper bracket there. So I can just grab a new one from a junkyard, no big deal. I'll try to find one that's not quite as bad as mine is, and hopefully that'll solve the issue. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, toss me a subscribe. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.